and myself to fill in. And so we were going to also focus on the Avatamsaka Sutra, but a different chapter, the Purifying Practices chapter, chapter number 11. However, to begin, I think we want to do the Dharma request and invoke the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the three jewels. So we have a layperson here who's helping out with the Dharma request. So anytime you're ready.
Okay, Dharma Master.
Okay, Amitofo.
Okay. Amitofo.
So please, you can follow along.
Gong Qing Da De Seng Ping Wei Ci Fa Hui Ji Jie Zhong Sheng Jin-Chuan Miao Fa Lun Jiao Dao Wo Men Ru He Liao Sheng Tuo Si Li Ku De Le Su Zhen Wu Sheng. Will the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Okay, so please repeat after me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo Sadhamto Suchedoye Arahati Samya Sambuddhoye.
Namo Satando Suchedoye Arahati Samya Sambuddhoye.
Together. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. So all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good and wise friends online, Amitofo. We'll begin also with an invocation to the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is also called the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra of Great Expanded Teachings, as well as the Avatamsaka Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so this is a chance to, you could say, sincerely request the presence of these great Buddhas and Bodhisattvas into our hearts. And if we're really sincere, they come and join us. Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra of Great Expanded Teachings, and the Ocean Wine Flower Garland Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra of Great Expanded Teachings, and the ocean wine flower garland assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to the Buddhas, flower garland sutra of great expanded teachings, and the ocean wine flower garland assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay, so today is May 22nd, 2021. And tonight, Jin-Wei and myself, Jin-Chuan, will be continuing to kind of investigate, explore the Purifying Practices chapter in the Avatamsaka Sutra. And this chapter, I think, really gives a glimpse into the mind and heart of the Bodhisattva. And we thought last time we spoke in the evening, we ended up just going over the highlights, kind of the four boundless hearts and how the Bodhisattva goes through his or her day. But because perhaps we might be speaking more often, we thought, well, we really do the sutra justice is to start at the beginning and to investigate each line much more carefully and unpack it. And there's definitely a value in studying the sutras in this way. It somehow, rather than us trying to have the sutra fit into boxes that allow us to make sense of it, we actually sincerely approach the sutras and line by line, just let those principles wash over us and connect to our daily lives. And so we thought, let's give this a try. Let's begin to investigate this very important chapter in the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's so important that it actually became part of the daily Vinaya, the daily monastic training for monks in the Chinese Mahayana tradition. Part of our monastic training involves memorizing many of these verses from this chapter. And so we actually make this text come alive in our daily lives. So this is the very beginning of the chapter, and I thought we could read both the Chinese and the English together. And so the Chinese is on the left side and the English is on the right side. And if you please place your palms together, we can read the text together. 尔时智受菩萨问文殊师利菩萨言：佛子，菩萨云何得无过失生与意业？云何得不害生与意业？云何得不可不可坏生与意业？ At that time, foremost wisdom Bodhisattva asked Manjushri Bodhisattva, disciple of the Buddha, how does a Bodhisattva get faultless karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get non-harming karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get blameless karma of body, speech, and mind? So we were going to start here with foremost wisdom Bodhisattva and Manjushri Bodhisattva. I think the first thing to notice here is that this is a discussion about wisdom, very deep wisdom, right? Foremost wisdom Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva who excels in wisdom, talking to Manjushri Bodhisattva, who's usually considered the foremost in wisdom Bodhisattva. So this is the Bodhisattva of wisdom talking to the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And I have a picture here from our Buddha Hall. It's just right next to us, right here in BBM. The stained glass window of Manjushri Bodhisattva. You see him sitting on a lion with his sword. And the sword is to represent this kind of ability to cut through delusion, to see things really clearly and just slice through all the confusion that we have in the world. And the lion is this kind of sense of courage, kind of fearlessness. When we really see things clearly, we're fearless. They talk about the Buddha because of his wisdom. He can be in any situation among thousands and thousands of people, even if they have ill will towards him, want to harm him, or want to criticize him or find fault in him. He's fearless. He has the wisdom just to see right through it and go directly to the living beings' hearts to know how to open to that place where they can actually transform and change. That's the Bodhisattva's wisdom. He has that kind of ability to slice right through. And Manjushri Bodhisattva, as a image here, represents that fearless, penetrating wisdom. So we thought that first question that was asked, how does a bodhisattva get faultless karma of body, speech, and mind? And maybe if we were to take it one step closer to us, how do I transform my faults, right? This is maybe another way to frame the question. How do we transform ourselves from the mistakes and faults that we have? And it's a good question. I think this is actually oftentimes the starting question on the bodhisattva path, or just trying to cultivate, say, you know what? I realize I'm not perfect. If I think I'm faultless already, well, I don't know. Maybe it might be worth a little bit reflection, because unless we're the Buddha, we've got some work to do. We've got some work to do, and that's the first step, is to really recognize where we're at. So today I was thinking we could actually investigate this topic. How do we transform our faults? I ask us to kind of reflect here. What are the faults that I have, but that you have, that we have? And we all have maybe different faults. Some of us have faults of pride and arrogance, and definitely have some of that. Some of us have faults of low self-esteem and looking down on ourselves, right? Some of us have faults of impulsivity and rushing things. We'll talk about that. Some people have the fault of just being really lazy and not doing anything ever, right? That's another extreme of that. So how do we navigate our lives so that we can actually live a life of real happiness and freedom? And so that's what we'll investigate.
And maybe I can add
Yeah.
that also the wisdom, Bodhisattva wisdom, can remind us our inherent wisdom, that we already have all the jewels in our mind and heart. And the fearlessness for me is also the part when we are have a courage to learn, truly learn who we are, go very deeply, not just look it on the surface, go to the heart, go to the mind, and uncover our deepest potential. And sometimes it takes a lot of fearlessness to learn, to have, but also curiosity, a little bit kind of, what is there? It's not like I will blame myself, but how I can take my heart as a classroom, go very deeply and explore what is there, how I can cherish my virtue, and how I can discover my virtue.
Okay, so when I looked at this verse, I immediately thought of Master Hua's verse, which was the question. He has a very famous verse, and I like this verse so much. I actually put it in my room when I was still a layperson, and I put it on my front door, on the room, like the room to my door. I put it on the front of the door, and it goes, 真认自己错，莫认他人非，他非即我非，同体明大悲. And it has a very nice kind of rhythm to it, right? The rhyming and rhythm. And this translates to English as truly recognize your own faults, or truly recognize my own faults. Don't discuss the faults of others. Others' faults are just my own. Being one with everyone is called great compassion. And I remember this verse to be quite penetrating for me, is because oftentimes we do almost the exact opposite. Rather than truly recognize my own faults, I cover over my own faults. What faults? Right? I said, no, I don't have any faults.
So truly recognize others' faults.
Yeah, and then we truly recognize other people's. Oh, that person has lots of faults, and they're a big problem in my life.
They need to very seriously cultivate.
Yeah, exactly. I see they really need. He doesn't walk correctly. He doesn't have good deportment. He's not keeping the precepts that well. He's not very mindful. So we're looking outside. But the third line I find very interesting. Master Hua says, "Other faults are just my own," and that really makes us think. Wait a moment. Somebody else's fault is my own fault? How does that work? And this is definitely worth reflection. On one level, is other faults are just my own can be my looking at their fault is actually a fault, right? If I'm picking out something in Jin-Wei and it's constantly looking for something he's doing wrong, then that's itself a fault. Oftentimes it's triggered by my own kind of irritation or anxiety around my own self, and I'm trying to pick out faults in him to make myself feel better about myself. I'm doing okay because he has lots of faults, right? So that's itself a fault. Another way that I found that connects is sometimes other people's faults stand out because we have the same fault.
They're so familiar for us.
Yeah, they're so familiar.
They're so easy to notice.
Yeah, they're so easy to notice somebody else. It's very true. That's another level that you can kick it at. And here's another level. A third level could be, if we're really on the Bodhisattva path, then we actually are here to help every living being get free. We don't see a separation between you and me. So if you have a fault, I see that also as my own fault that I want to help transform. I want to create the conditions that will allow you to grow and change. So if somebody is selfish, then maybe I might find opportunities to be generous to them and to inspire them, maybe at some points to be generous, right? This is something I think service-based does quite well. Mm-hmm. That's a group that started partly here in Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. And I just been so inspired by them because they're able to create a space where people just walk in, and almost inevitably, because the space is so aligned to generosity, people who don't want to be generous become generous. I remember they had at one point, I think this was I heard this story from Nippon, in Karma Kitchen. I think it was in India. If I get it wrong, you can correct me. Mm-hmm. But what they had was essentially this box of money, out in the open. So Karma Kitchen, for one, is people just show up at the restaurant and everyone's just, this is Sevia Cafe. So everyone shows up, just eats the food, and at the end they get a bill saying $0. You can pay it forward however much you wish. So people don't have to pay for their own meal. It's just an act of generosity. I can pay for somebody else. Right? And in front of this, I think at that time it's called Seva Cafe in India, they had a box of money in it. It's like an open box, probably clear. And you could see people just put in money, and they said, however much money you need, just come in, just grab it and take it with you. Just an open box of money. People would put it in, and if you need it, you take some money out. Well, one person showed up. He looked at this box of money, and he got really angry. He said, "What? How can you do this? How can you just put money out like this? This is not right. You can't just put money out like this. What do you think? People be lazy. They're not doing their work. You just can take money." And so what did he do? Just to show, I'm going to show you this is just wrong. he just went and took all the money from the box. He just took all of it and left, just to prove
You're
his
so
point.
naive,
You're
right?
so naive. You guys are just too naive. I'm going to show you. I'm just take all the money. So he goes out with all the money. And then some time passes, and maybe like a week later, he shows up again. And they see him. And he puts up all this money back in the box. And he looked at the people and he said, you know what? I took the money and I couldn't spend $1 of it. I couldn't spend any of it. So I brought it back. I put it back in the box. And it's just, interesting. Somebody comes in really, trying to prove a point. No one's fighting with them. Okay, you want to take the money? You take the money. And in that process, they're transformed, right? To me, that's when we say others' faults are just my own, is that we create a context, a way for them to transform themselves. And it's not to say that I begin to kind of, obsess about other people's faults and then make myself feel more and more miserable. That's not what it means. But it's the sense that we actually take responsibility for a greater realm of experience. And that's what moves to that last line. Being one with everyone is great compassion. And that's great compassion, tongti dabe, not being separate, not being, you're over there and I'm over here and I protect my stuff over here and you take care of your stuff and I don't care. It's no, we're all in this together. We're all living beings. We all suffer. We all want to be happy. And we're on this journey to awakening together.
And it's very natural. We can see, like from Bodhisattva perspective, all living beings is the one family. When we're seeing that, for instance, our siblings, our brother or sister, even I say that the word fault sometimes could be misleading because it's not a sense of, what we said before, a judgment, that it's more, those behavior, those habits potentially can create a suffering and leads to place when someone is stressed out, doesn't feel well. So how I can support a potential way someone to change, even without showing up, but more be supportive and knowing that I try my best really to give you a hand when you are ready to grab the hand.
So Jin-Wei and myself thought, okay, so how would we talk about this topic? We thought, okay, well, let's talk about ourselves. We don't need to talk about other people's faults. We can talk about our own faults. So I thought, one thing I've been working on a lot since young to now is being very impulsive. I wasn't so into astrology, but interesting enough, after I started learning the Dharma, I learned more about astrology, and I'm Aries, born in April. And one of the tendencies I also learned about Aries is that they're very impulsive. They have this kind of, a ram, right? They have this kind of horns, and they ram things. And I remember I'm sure telling me what rams do, or Aries do, is they look at something, they just keep crashing into it enough times, and it hurts enough, and then they maybe learn about it, right? Learning through suffering. And I say that was a lot of my experience growing up, was I just start something as quickly as possible, and then try to figure things out as I'm going along. And sometimes it works, but oftentimes it can actually lead to a lot of arguments with other people, and doing things in a way that's not really thought through. And so I remember, one second, we get a chat message here. No? Oh, somebody has a question. Okay, so one of the things I was going to share in terms of just this sense of argumentativeness is my tendency is what? Is essentially, I have an idea in my mind and I immediately try to express it in a conversation. But rather than expressing it in a way that's more open, I express it as like a strong view, like, oh, this is right, things are like this. And then somebody else, perhaps like Jin-Wei here, or somebody else was saying, oh, I see it differently. And I immediately get very defensive. What do you mean? This is the right way to do it, you know? And I'm already defending myself and in an argument. And about halfway through the conversation, we were like maybe 5 minutes into the argument. I'm thinking to myself, what? How did I end up in this perspective? I mean, it's just my first idea. This isn't actually a very good idea, but I'm so invested in my whole like identity, and my energy is invested in this idea. I keep defending it just out of habit. I'm just like, so there's an inner dialogue like, you're actually wrong, but no, you can't look wrong because you're already so much invested in this. You got to keep going, you know? And I just remember that as a kid happening. And I would be so fixed on it, even after the conversation, I still be thinking like, no, I have to be right. Like, what are all the reasons I could be right? And I'd be go home thinking about, you know, how I'm right. And I remember as a kid, one of another kid, I think it was elementary school, asked me, or didn't ask me, said, just made a statement to me, said, you know, you argue a lot. I said, no, I don't. Said, see, you argue a lot. And I said, no, that's not fair. How can you say that? And so I went home and I really thought about like, how can I win that argument? It's, you know, I've already, you know, lost any way I respond. And I told the story many times, but at one point, possibly actually reflect on Master Hua's verse, was I realized actually a much better response to, in elementary school, to that young boy, when I was also a young boy, was to say, you're right. You know, I do argue a lot. I have a tendency to get really excited about my ideas and then defend them. And so I really appreciate, first I would ask you, you know, just to forgive me for doing that. But at the same time, if I do that, if you could gently remind me, I would really appreciate it. And that would have been a much more skillful response, right? Admitting my faults. And similarly here with this particular question that foremost wisdom Bodhisattva is asking is, how do I get free of faults in my body, speech, and mind? Right? How do I act with other people so that I don't have to be so impulsive? And so one of the things I often do, I'm also now in DRBU, kind of an instructor helping with our classes, as I often start off the class with a little bit of a confession, maybe, to say, you know, first I'm wearing these monastic robes, but doesn't mean I'm right by the monastic robes. So this is an open conversation. I also have a tendency, which is that I sometimes get really excited about my ideas. I don't think them through and I start talking. And I might even sometimes get defensive about my ideas, but that's just my habitual pattern. I'm working on it. So if you're patient with me, and still you can, you know, gently correct me, and we can kind of do this shared inquiry together. And I'll do my best to catch that habit. And sometimes that's just how I start out the beginning first class, just to introduce myself. And I think that it really does a number of things. Number one, it opens up the space and let people know that this is something I'm really working on. And I appreciate people's support in. And also to say this is a safe place where we can make mistakes. I'll make mistakes. And if you make mistakes, we're here all to learn together. And I think that's the spirit here of foremost wisdom Bodhisattva, saying, how do we create an environment where we can actually free ourselves from our faults, free ourselves from, as Jin-Wei said, the tendencies that create suffering for ourselves and other people. This is not fault in the sense of like a super ego, or kind of like this external judge that's looking at you and say, you're full of faults.
Tyrant,
You're
watching
your
every movement, and always ready to judge and criticize.
That's not what this kind of fault is. It's the fault that comes from our own inner awareness that, you know what, this habit is painful. It creates pain for myself. It creates pain for the people around me. It's just not fun. Like this, I talk about this impulsiveness. Arguing with people is actually painful for myself, painful for other people. Things that I'm trying to do don't get done because I end up attaching to a point of view or a way of doing things, right? So this is just one aspect. And I invite everyone here is, you can think about yourself. what are some of the things that aren't habits that aren't serving me now? Maybe they were useful when I was a little boy or girl, or young, maybe as a teenager, but now I look at my life and they're not that useful anymore. I want to actually change that. This is what the Dharma is for. So then Jin-Wei was going to share about something.
Yes, this is my story. So Jin-Chuan a little bit start with connecting his tendencies with his horoscope, with his, so maybe a little bit like my analysis.
Oh.
and also kind of public confession as well.
Oh.
So mine sign is Aquarian. By the way, I have a quite experience be around Aries. My father is Aries, and actually many my family is Aries. So I a little bit know this they have a lot of kind of eager and enthusiasm.
That's a nice way to put it.
To jump to new ideas and always ready for adventure. Let's explore. So it's but it's important also, I can say. Well, maybe I don't go too much to astrological analysis, but speaking of my Aquarian nature, so sometimes we Aquarians have a tendencies to kind of stuck in our ideas, be kind of disconnected to reality, just kind of daydreaming, think about the future, what's going to happen here. Oh, this idea is interesting. Just kind of thinking and kind of dreaming. And what's produced is that we don't see what is, in front of our eyes. It's very easy to kind of miss many elements, what's happening when we do whatever we do. And the short story I share with some of you, so probably you heard that there's one accident what happened to me. As a maybe long story short, as many of you knows, we have another monastery in Santa Cruz Mountain. It's called Redwood Vihara. And last August, it was quite tragic event. It was the White Fire, and very dramatic. And as a cause of it, was 2,000 structures was burned around. Our monastery and our two buildings, you can say, miraculously or was survived, but we lost our garage and shed. And we just after the evacuation order was lifted up, many our good friends, like around 10 of volunteers, show up there and help to rebuild the place. So you can see how it looked like just
pictures
after fire. It was quite amazing when we went. It was for me first time to the forest, what looks like, in the middle of winter, everything around was white.
So this is our shed beforehand. This is before the fires. And this is,
and you see this
is white. The white is the
looks like snow, but it's actually not snow. It's the ashes.
How close it got to the house.
The forest floor burned around a very large area. This is previous retaining wall completely burned.
The shed completely burned.
And it's all like, wow, it was very, very touching, a kind of sorbing face of nature. Okay, the forest sometimes burn, and it's a lot of trauma there because of this fire happened. So you see, this is actually, can you move back a little bit? The photos.
Okay.
You can see that the line of the fire, by the way.
Okay, let me share the screen again.
Yes, this is when the fire stopped.
So this is what they posted. House okay, garage gone. So what really was striking is, so the garage and the katul shed was basically burned, but the structure, the main houses that we have there were not. You can see where the fire stopped.
Exactly.
Right.
And what is more interesting enough, a few hours back, when we got the house, Rabbi Hank Shur and all the monks from Berkeley Buddhist Monastery and nuns from the city of 10,000 Buddhas and few lay people came to this place, and we did the Purifying Boundaries. When we went around the house and recite Great Compassion Mantra, and the fire stopped exactly on the line when you saw.
Yeah, this is us doing the.
We went through.
By some of the Dharma Master Liang here,
Master
Dharma Master Jiao, Dharma Master Jing
Dharma
Shi
Jing
was that time staying there,
It's half me.
and then we had the altar here where we set up to do the Purifying Boundaries Ceremony with everyone. So we circumambulated the house at that time with everyone. This is quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
Then the fires came, and then I remember showing some of those pictures to the bhikshunis, and Dharma Master Liang's first response was, "Wow, we didn't circumambulate around the tool shed and the garage." I said, "Oh, I didn't really think about that." But it was actually true. The line where essentially the fire stopped was where the Purifying Boundaries is. At the same time, you also have to say the firefighters came just in the nick of time. Our neighbor happened to go back there even when it was evacuated. He went back there to pick up some things, and he saw that there was a fire close to the houses, the cabin and the house there in Redwood Vihara. So we thought, well, maybe let's go take a look at the Buddhist property. So he drove in down the road, which is maybe like half a mile in, right? So he actually during fire, and so he's a little bit dangerous, right? He goes in, he sees, wow, there's fire all over the place here, and I was like, we got to find some firefighters. So he drives out, and right when he drives out on the road, he finds a group of firefighters, I think from Mountain View, he said. And they was like, we're looking for a fire to put out. So I've got a fire for you.
Yeah, follow me.
Follow me. So he brings all the firefighters in.
We can say that visible and invisible forces definitely worked and saved our two buildings.
Yeah, saved the two main buildings.
Main buildings. We lost the garage and shed. So since this time, almost every weekend, sometimes even a few days a week, a group of our volunteers show up and clean up all the space. Now rebuild the shed, the tool shed recently. Rebuild our water tanks. Kind of basically, we bring all the essential that monastery can function again. So back to my Aquarian kind of lack of clarity, to put it this way. One times we also working remodeling our house over there. We decided to change the floor. We decided to remove the carpet from the house, and we bought vinyl floors. And in the process of uploading this vinyls, I remember I just touched these vinyls, and after a second was kind of I saw the darkness, huge pain, and what's happened? And I like, oh, my finger's so sore. And, I actually lost consciousness twice. And later my two fingers are bleeding,
So this is what happened. Two broken fingers.
Later we find out they're actually broken.
Yeah.
So it's quite dramatic, pretty painful.
Pretty painful, yeah.
And,
lost consciousness, you said twice, right?
Lost consciousness twice, so quite drama, right? And we can talk a lot about it. But, it forced me. Jin-Wei, what's happened? Why it happened? And I start thinking that, I missed few steps. First, I was my mouth was cloudy. I was thinking here and there, little bit restless, and kind of follow my habit to do something and very fast, without any control of my movements. And finally, I found that my fingers are broken, right? And the second thing, what I also started thinking, because I didn't have enough clarity, rushing things. In fact, we missed a very important part. What we always start our day with chanting of Guanyin name.
Mhm.
We sit in the circle. We talked about our workflow, what we want to do, hear our volunteers' voices, and so forth.
How everyone's doing.
How I was doing, but this day somehow we just jump to do work, and I kind of miss it. So I kind of miss the very essential point of the monastery, right? Be aware, be aware, be mindful, kind of relaxed at the same time, right? And just see clearly, what we're doing. If I have awareness, I probably it didn't happen. So, okay, it's very good lesson for me that that we are always saying that our monastery, we build the monastery, but also monastery build us. And I think the very important part of this building internal monastery is recognizing our habits, our tendencies, and we can say faults, but we just bringing the awareness and just try to see, maybe sometimes we we break our fingers, sometimes maybe not, but definitely always is opportunity to learn and try to improve, try to back to centeredness, to relaxation, to awareness, and so forth. So was quite a lesson for me, and now I don't have any splinters, and I don't have to play all the Dharma instruments my left hand. But I let a lot of learn that, okay, actually left hand is very useful. And I was definitely very grateful to have now two hands. But it was very good lesson for me, that following my habits, don't see things clearly and just dreaming and not be here and now, and rushing things can bring injuries.
Mhm. So after some time, we've been working there since what was October last year, since
I think September,
September.
the end of
So
September.
imagine it's been almost 8 months. 8 months we've been working at Redwood Vihara, and a lot of work has been done. Built retaining walls to keep the soil from coming down, prevent erosion. Rebuilding the tool shed, changing out the floors, cleaning up the property, fixing the road, repairing the water tanks, repairing the water pump that was burned, checking out various places in the property to make sure we got a sense of the fire damage. So a lot has happened.
Make connection with the neighbors.
Yeah, seeing all neighbors. Mm-hmm. So quite a lot. By the same time, there's elements, I think, just what Jin-Wei was said, where there's been some injuries or times when we also realized we weren't faultless in our karma. We weren't faultless in our karma of body, speech, and mind. Mm-hmm. And we had a conversation with Reverend Shi about it, and also with Dr. Martin Verhoeven, Marty. And we talked about, some of where we felt we weren't doing things so well. And both of them recommended to us, perhaps you might think about doing a Purifying Boundaries ceremony, not just around the buildings, but also where you work. Mm-hmm. And we thought ourselves, interesting idea. Ramon Shi also made an interesting reflection. He said, human beings have created a lot of harm in those redwoods. We've clear cut the redwoods twice, completely. Right? Basically, almost every single tree was cut down. You can see some of those trees, they're stumps still, they're huge, right? And human beings just came through with our saws and completely gone. And so these are the grandchildren of these big redwoods that now exist are the grandchildren of those huge trees. And so we've killed 2 generations. We killed all their parents, all their grandparents. Ramon says, I had this feeling that the forest remembers. The forest remembers. And there's these books that have been published and research that's been done about how, you know, trees actually communicate with one another. They're like somehow like one organism that they can actually communicate throughout the forest. But in addition to that, from, you could say, the Buddhist point of view, we also have a lot of the spiritual realm as well. There's oftentimes tree spirits, nature spirits. I remember there's a story Reverend Hung told us when we first got there, that Master Hua said, and actually in two of the really old trees, there lives an immortal and a dragon. So there's a whole spiritual realm that perhaps is there. And so we thought, okay, it would be good to maybe do a purifying boundaries ceremony. We're talking about purifying practices now, but to actually essentially repent and renew, to essentially to kind of say, you know, we really want to apologize for the harm that we've done and all humans have done, and renew ourselves and commit ourselves to living in the spirit of cultivation, in the four boundless hearts, in the 6 guidelines given by Master Hua, the 10 good deeds. And so just a couple of weekends ago, we did another purifying boundaries ceremony with some of the work crew. And so this is just Jin-Wei and myself, just in the front being the Wei-Nos. And Jing-Fo came along and wore the red robe as the Dharma host to sprinkle the sweet dew. And we did a purifying boundaries ceremony. And we thought this was actually quite meaningful to share, because this essentially was our practice in trying to correct our faults. We recognize our faults, places that we've maybe misstepped, made a mistake. And so, you know, we really want to recognize those and change those. And we want to do this in the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the 3 jewels, all the Dharma protecting spirits, and the trees and all living beings that are in that environment. That's why we did the ceremony outside again, because we thought that this allowed us to be closer to the natural environment.
And Reverend Hung give advice that now you need to move your cultivation to next level.
Yeah.
So, okay, we did this kind of bring this foundation for our monastery, like Jin-Chuan mentioned, a lot of repairs, a lot of kind of bringing the monastery to the place when we can actually use. But the very important element is how the space serves also to us to change and purify ourselves internally. And this is kind of, when we are covered with our habits, it's very easy to forget. Same like I forget when I uploading the trailer and was hit by the vinyls. And so that's the ceremony itself was for us renewing our kind of commitment, why we are here.
And actually on that point, that was actually where Reverend Hung said that it actually really helped me, because it's one way to look at our faults is, oh, I made a lot of mistakes. And I kind of started having a little bit of a fighting mind, and I need to change my fault or something. And he says, look, you don't want to think about that way. Think about taking your cultivation to the next level. I said, oh, that's interesting. So rather than fighting with ourselves or with other people about faults, say, you know what, why not say I can just improve, right? I can actually take my practice to a new level. So this was the spirit of what we did. And just to give an outline of the ceremony, people have probably had experiences of being in purifying boundary ceremonies, because we do that before any session at a monastery. For instance, like a Guanyin session at the beginning, we're doing the Sajing, the purifying boundary ceremony. So we took the ceremony that we had, we did pretty much the exact same thing. And we would circumambulate the main houses, the main buildings to sprinkle water, and also where we worked, as was recommended, so that there's a sense of this space is the sacred space. And our workplace that we work is also the place that we practice. It's not separate, right? And so I remember, because we have actually 2 buildings there, one house and one kind of older cabin. And so we thought, okay, we need to circumambulate both of those places. So we were discussing, should we maybe drive a car, go from one place and drive to the other place, because it's somewhat far away. Jin-Wei says, "Oh, we can just walk." I said, "Really? We can walk? Okay." So we decided to walk, reciting the Great Compassion Mantra. So we walked from the house to the cabin, and then we thought, well, we should probably also walk to the bridge where we're also going to be doing some work. And you were like, how about we just walk all the way to the main road where you come onto the property? So
As a footnote, is 250 acres in this partial of the land. So it's a lot of walking, and we didn't think that it takes us actually almost 3 hours.
Yeah, we didn't walk the whole land, but just that section, just the road. And so it took quite a while, and it was everyone's reciting Great Compassion Mantra, and just walking. But it's beautiful. We're surrounded by the redwood trees and the nature and the fresh air, and you could say good Dharma friends. And we're reciting Great Compassion Mantra, just Namo Halai Tanai Tola Ye Ye Namo Wali. And as I'm walking, in my heart, I'm trying to tune in, say, to the heart of compassion and repentance, and to say, you know what, I'm sorry for anything that we've done that's been harmful, and I really wish that we can do better. I really wish we can really be stewards of the land, and I hope that we can receive also the support of the natural environment. We're not here to create any harm. And so just kind of reciting and just letting the music, the kind of gentle sounds of the mantra kind of go into my heart, but also reverberate out into the forest. And it definitely felt kind of a connection, like, I'm part of this natural landscape. And so we finally got back to our location in the kind of driveway of Redwood Vihara. And one of the men who have been helping out said, we should probably meditate. I said, really? And most of these guys don't meditate. He said, no, we need to meditate. I said, really? Okay. He says, yeah, if you want them to actually change, and we actually can change our habits, then we actually have to be quiet for a little bit to reflect. I said, oh, that's a good point. And we need to do that every time before we work. I said, oh, wow, that's a good point too. Okay. So we came back and said, okay, we're going to meditate now. So we brought some yoga mats from the monastery. So we put it on the ground, right? So people wouldn't get their clothes dirty. We sat down. It was kind of the hot, at that time it was almost noontime. So the sun was right on us. We sat down. I thought, okay, a lot of these maybe guys aren't kind of regular meditators. So one of the things that Jin-Wei and myself have been very inspired by is loving kindness meditation. So how about we do a guided metta practice, guided loving kindness meditation? So we sat there and we just kind of relax, right? Relax the body, bring our awareness into our body, and then think of a time we've been cared for, right? Somebody who cares about us, or that we cared about somebody else. And just kind of tune into that heart of care. How does that feel like in the body? And my sense is because we've been walking around for almost 3 hours reciting Great Compassion Mantra with Dharma friends in a kind of natural environment, you can say maybe the heart and the body is a little bit softer. So we're sitting there and imagining, okay, tuning into the loving kindness. And just rest there for maybe a few moments, and then reflected, how about if we shared that with all of us here? I think we maybe have 10 or 11 guys there. And so we thought, how about we share it with each other? And these are usually pretty tough guys. Their way of communicating is very direct. And you don't really get this sense of like, I love you kind of, that's not the kind of, they're not sticky people, pretty tough. And so I thought it's kind of, my heart was kind of smiling. I could just imagine all of us kind of saying, extending out this heart of care for each of us here, just imagining everyone's faces and just, I care about you. I want you to be happy. And just kind of letting that sense of expansion, go out in the group to all of us. And then just imagining, well, how about if we extended that to all the creatures, the trees, the spirits here in Redwood Vihara, right on this land. So just expanding our hearts from ourselves to those around us and just out in the monastery. And just keep going out and out and out throughout the world. And for me, what was important is to then take that meditation back into ourselves. Right? We don't want to have just only this kind of going out. And sometimes I feel like that can easily scatter. And so the sense was, by us sending out that care out to all beings, living beings also naturally respond back with that care. And my sense is that's often why the Dharma protectors come and protect, is because they see that heart of caring. And they go, that's what I want to support. In fact, if you look at the Buddha's teachings on loving kindness, he says that if we can abide in the heart of loving kindness, the devas come and protect. They support. And so that's my sense, is that this is really how, if we really want to have the Dharma protectors, you could say, helping us, caring for us, then we need to also embody that kind of care. And so just imagine all the Dharma protecting spirits, the trees, the creatures, sending that care back to us. We care about the land. We're stewards of the land. The land is also caring for us, is also sustaining us. And just to tune into that. So we sat for a little bit of time, out in the hot sun, just kind of reflecting. Since I don't know what's going on in other people's minds and hearts, I don't know how other people felt, but I definitely was, my heart was kind of opened. And at that point, we had prepared a repentance and renewal kind of commitment statement, some kind of vows. And at that, before, when we prepared it, and we also reviewed it with Rav Heng Sure, Jin-Wei and myself thought, maybe we just read it ourselves, because I don't know if all the men would want to also say this, because it's something we wrote, and so it was something we want to commit to, and they are welcome to listen, or if they also want to say it, that they're invited to do so. So I printed out a copy for everyone, and told everyone, okay, we're not going to read the repentance and renewal commitment. You're welcome to join Jin-Wei and myself if you wish, but there's no pressure. And then, but Jin-Wei and myself are just going to kneel, and we're going to recite this. So I didn't turn around to see if everyone kneeled, but my sense was actually people did kneel. And my also sense was people were also reading it together. And I thought actually this was a chance to share with people what we wrote, because I thought this was kind of helpful, was very helpful for both of us. Do you want to say something more?
That just says that.
I'll say this for later.
Yeah, the moment was very touching when we just kneel down. The Jin-Chuan says, we didn't know for sure that behind us people joining, but definitely I'm almost pretty sure that also they join us kneeling. But the sound changed with this. It's quite interesting echo in this forest. So this kind of sound kind of a little bit resonate, and we kind of myself tried to very talked from my true heart of care.
Yeah.
And that, yes, this is, first, I'm able to do it, right? I'm able to be the steward of this land, but also be steward of my heart and my nature at the same time, right? And it's something, I can say, very transformative and encouraging if we do in the group of people. That I know that this is my Dharma brothers, and we support each other in embodying and try to guide ourselves according to the important values and change. And it's something very, very powerful. And I assuming that many of you who are watching us just finished the 10,000 bowing ceremony. And even I think what we do in the house, in the front of the screen, but having a sense of community, knowing that we not just alone in this path, give us a lot of kind of courage and kind of uplift the heart, which we say, yes, I can do it. I'm able to change myself and able to live my life according with my deep aspirations. And I definitely felt that when we were together in this moment in the forest.
So I just wanted to share with you our repentance and renewal commitment, because I thought it also might be a good reference for others who we're going to have the bathing Buddha ceremony tomorrow at BBM at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. And in many ways, bathing the Buddha is ultimate. Sorry, I went to the wrong document here. Is a chance to purify our own hearts and minds, and to repent and renew. You could say, we're cleaning. We're bathing the Buddha. We're also bathing our own Buddha nature. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to read this just for people to kind of hear and encourage, maybe inspire others to think about how you would write a repentance and renewal commitment if you wanted to renew yourself for bathing clean. So maybe we can read it together.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Dharma protectors, spirits, trees, and all living beings of Redwood Vihara. Today, we solemnly share our commitment to care for the land and live in harmony with all beings in Redwood Vihara. We ask for your forgiveness for what we have done that may have harmed or offended you in any way. We also repent on behalf of all the humans who have harmed this land, the trees, and living beings. We vow to protect the monastery as a sacred place for spiritual practice. We pledge to guide the actions of our body, speech, and mind by the 4 boundless hearts, the 6 guidelines established by our teacher, Venerable Master Hua, and the 10 wholesome actions. The 4 boundless hearts are the true heart of Redwood Vihara. 1. We vow to cultivate a heart of loving kindness, wishing for the well-being of all, taking care not to become possessive or attached. 2. We vow to nurture a heart of compassion, wishing to relieve pain and suffering in others, taking care not to be overwhelmed by sadness or despair. 3. We vow to cultivate a heart of appreciative joy, rejoicing in others' accomplishments and virtue, taking care not to become overexcited. 4. We vow to maintain a heart of equanimity, responding to what arises with patience and balance, taking care not to become insensitive or indifferent. These 4 hearts allow us to discern what is the skillful action to take in each moment. What are these skillful actions? They are the 10 wholesome actions that are expressed and embodied in the 6 guidelines taught by our teacher, Venerable Master Hua. 1. Not fighting. We commit to not have a win-lose, competitive, rushing, or forcing mind that can manifest in aggressive speech or actions. We resolve to live in harmony with everyone and everything. 2. Not being greedy. We commit to not have a scheming mind that can manifest in stealing, gossip, and divisive speech. We resolve to practice generosity. 3. Not seeking. We commit to not follow our impulses. We resolve to practice patience when feelings of desire or anger arise. 4. Not being selfish. We commit to not attach to and defend our own point of view. Resolve to have an open mind, listen respectfully, and see things from others' perspectives. We are here in the spirit of service. 5. Not pursuing personal advantage. We commit to not seek shortcuts or distractions. Resolve to stay mindful and focused. 6. Not lying. We commit to being truthful and take mistakes as an opportunity to learn. We apologize and do our best to make amends when we harm others. May the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Three Jewels, and all the Dharma protecting spirits hear our commitments. We humbly request your guidance and protection in our cultivation and service in the Dharma. So we thought it might be valuable just to unpack this a little bit. Clearly, we wanted to start out from a place of what we really care about, which is we care about harmony, we care about spiritual practice, and we want to acknowledge that we made mistakes and ask for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And so, and this is not just forgiveness for ourselves, but for human beings as a whole on the land. As humans, we've created so much suffering for the earth. And I think you say, well, maybe you weren't the human. How's that work? I think it does work, because if you just imagine yourself in a situation when maybe somebody wrongs you and a member of that person's family comes to you and says, we're really sorry for this person who harmed you. We see it and we acknowledge I was wrong, and we take responsibility as a family. I would say we take responsibility as a species, as a human species that has created a lot of harm for the natural world and other living beings. So the sense that, this is what we read in the very beginning, others' faults are just my own. We take responsibility.
And also the people who, in this context, where they cut the trees and maybe harm in many ways the animals, it's not they are bad, that maybe they forget who they really are, what is their true potential, or that depart from this heart of care, heart of this kind of sense of non-harming. Sometimes it's so easy to forget that. And unfortunately, in many ways, we sometimes, through the movies, from the music and all the culture even, it's not always emphasized this kind of caring, loving kindness. And very often people just disconnect from this heart. Mm-hmm. And as be one of the compassion, we could be a reminder, kind of ambassadors of, caring heart, not by putting the finger and showing the faults, but showing the another potential, right? That, it could be done differently. I trust you. I trust your true nature. I trust that you can change.
I think that's just a really important point Jin-Wei was saying about how it's not to say that people are bad who maybe say cut down the trees. I'm sure these people had to make a living and had probably very good families, and were doing their best to make sense of life. But I think one of the situations that we all are struggling with in current times is how we relate to the natural environment, how we relate to each other. And there's a very strong tendency in our current culture which emphasizes technology and efficiency,
Mhm.
is to basically see each other as means to an end. So trees are resources to be harvested. Living human beings are labor to be maximized.
Or
you know.
objects to fulfill our desires.
Yeah, for whatever
Tools.
purpose, tools
Yeah.
for whatever purposes we have. And so here you could say in our terms of the commitment, say we're actually not using that way of coming at the world. In the monastery, what we care about isn't to use you as a tool. We're here to help you realize your full potential.
And serve to your true humanity.
Yeah. Or living beings all over, it's your Buddha nature.
Right.
It's the trees, the creatures. That's what we're in service to. So this is that first section, is to say, we acknowledge that we've been caught in a certain delusion, a kind of humanity has been caught in a kind of a delusion. We admit to it, and we're going to try our best to not slip into that.
Or remember who we truly are and what is our true potential.
Yeah. And then the next section, we thought kind of makes it much more concrete. We went to the 4 boundless hearts because this is, for one, Jin-Wei and myself have been really into the 4 boundless hearts. So we think it's true. This is kind of the core of what it means to be a monastery. And that's what we said, it's the true heart of Redwood Vihara. And I think in the previous talk we had given, we already explained the 4 boundless hearts. So I won't go into too much detail, but each one essentially is, the second one is a definition of what this heart of loving kindness is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one, the taking care, is to say, what is the near enemy? Where are the places that heart can actually go off? And so, for instance, the heart of loving kindness can easily get attached. And so, for the heart of compassion can easily move to sadness or despair. Appreciative joy can easily get too excited. Equanimity can often be misunderstood as becoming insensitive. Like I'm kind of calm inside, but that calmness comes from an attitude of I don't care. It doesn't matter. You just do your own thing. I don't care. And that's not real equanimity. So we first start with these 4 hearts. But I think maybe with the very last bit of this lecture, I thought what might be helpful is to really unpack the 6 guidelines of Master Hua. Because we repeat this every day, actually twice, during our morning ceremony once and evening ceremony once. We ask ourselves, we say, I ask myself, do I find? I ask myself, am I greedy? I ask myself, do I seek? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Go through all 6. And the question is, like, what does that really mean? I see there's one person who asked a question on the chat box. How do I, let me see if I find the chat box again here.
Transform selfishness.
Yes, yeah, something like, how do I transform selfishness, I think? How do I transform my selfishness? And here's not being selfish. How do I not be selfish, right? And it's tricky because when you say selfishness, I think selfishness is pretty broad. So I don't know exactly what you mean by selfishness. But we here just try to elaborate a little bit to make these 6 more concrete. And if people who've been around in DRBA for a while, you hear the senior disciples talking about the 6 guidelines as the true gems, the true treasures that Master Hua left us.
Mm-hmm.
These Master Hua would say things like, for me, my cultivation, the real practice is the 6 guidelines. This is really where it's at. And because so much of us are going to the esoteric stuff, go to the 42 hands and eyes, Shurangama mantra, the kind of what might look attractive. And Master was, no, the 6 guidelines, these are really where it's at. But do we really think about it or just repeat it just from kind of memory? And the senior disciples also explained, these are the mind ground precepts. Master Hua basically took the 5 precepts and brought it into the mind. So before, for instance, not killing, what happens in the mind before you kill is fighting. So each of the first 5 connect to the precepts, and the 6th one is not lying. So we try to elaborate on each of these guidelines by thinking about what are the qualities of mind, what's going on in the mind and the heart that causes us to end up breaking the precept. So let's take a look at not fighting. Well, we thought, well, when we fight, we immediately are in a win or lose mindset. You know, I was talking about myself being argumentative, is that rather than having an open mind, a willingness to collaborate and learn, kind of mutual learning, it's more of a fight. Who's right? I'm right, you're wrong. Or you're right and I'm wrong. That can also be another move, right? This kind of constant fighting in the mind. It's competitive. It often rushes. It's kind of this pushing, like I have to get ahead.
And we kind of stop seeing others as a kind of fellow humans, but more as objects to obstruct my way to get what I want.
Yeah.
You know, very easily it's happen, and it's good to tune into it and see, aha, okay, this is impulse arise. Okay, I can acknowledge that, and try to not fall. Just simple like that. But it's few steps before I act. I can make a reflection and I can respond with wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning to wisdom, how to wisdom, acknowledge the wisdom, to see that we have a space in our mind that we don't have to react according to our habit. We have a choice.
Yeah.
The small choice is the place of our true freedom to change and kind of and see clearly what's happened every second and every moment.
And you can see how that leads to killing, right? That what Jin-Wei said made a lot of sense. We start seeing people as obstacles to our desires. So how do we get rid of the obstacles? We kill them. Maybe not directly kill them, but in our mind, we start to have aggressive speech or actions. You might actually even say things that are harsh to them or yell at them, right?
Or if our friends say something what we don't like, okay, I get rid of you from my phone book, or eliminate from my friends in Facebook, for instance. So easy to do it right now. It's if I see the problem, I want to get rid of the problem. Right? This is kind of the fighting mind.
Yeah, and so what we wanted to end on a positive note. Because sometimes if you just negative, or no, people go, oh gosh, you Buddhists, always no fun. Life is just so miserable.
And first noble truth is suffering, and don't do this and don't do that.
No killing, no stealing. So, but we want to say actually, no, it's not to say we're trying to, repress ourselves. It's actually trying to open ourselves to something much more alive in us. As Jin-Wei was saying, our true potential. So we sit here, we resolve to live in harmony with everyone and everything. That's something we want to do, right? And when you see people who can really do that, it's so beautiful. You just want to be around them because you feel safe, and you see people just naturally becoming their best selves around these people who are just harmonious, right? It's such a wonderful thing to see. And so why can't we say that's what I want to do? I have this potential to not fight and actually be harmonious.
And the monastery itself is the place which established the boundary. Here, people are friendly to each other. They don't fight, right?
Yeah.
I can be safe. I can be vulnerable. I can trust. So this is how we're building the trust to others, right? People don't afraid us. Because why? We see them as a fellow humans, and we kind of connecting with the heart of kindness and care instead of with kind of heart of competitiveness and kind of fighting.
Yeah. And not being greedy. So what's greedy mean? I really think it manifests as a kind of a scheming mind, kind of manipulative mind, a mind that's kind of looking for advantages, taking advantage of other people, of a situation. So you're always looking, so how do I get a profit out of this? This kind of never settled content in oneself, always going out to kind of get a little bit more. And so it can manifest as stealing, taking things that are not ours. and come out as gossip and divisive speech, right? We start to kind of say things that become actually harmful with our mouth. And instead of doing that, why not practice generosity? You can also probably put contentment in here too, right? So rather than being greedy, we can practice generosity. Yeah. I was saying, in terms of time, we don't have so much more. So I was thinking, you want to say that?
So just maybe to the one of the answer for the question how to change this selfishness is to practice generosity, right? This is kind of not seeing just everything is from myself, everything my desires and needs, but also acknowledge other needs, and serve them to the best of my ability. And just noticing them, notice others' needs. You bring this kind of connection, ability to see how I can connect and be closer to someone's and support.
And then we're just given the time. Maybe I'll just be a little bit briefer for the other ones. Not seeking. This one's kind of goes sexual misconduct. So we say seeking, and sometimes that doesn't really resonate. We go seeking, what does that mean? So we thought, oh, actually impulses, right? Sexual misconduct often comes as an impulse, this kind of strong drive that we then don't catch, and then we get entangled in a relationship that's inappropriate, and then a lot of suffering. I mean, I think we've probably see that in the people around us or of ourselves. We've been in a situation where we've done that kind of, it's just things get complicated so fast. So we say here, we commit to not follow our impulses, but rather practice patience when feelings of desire or anger arise. We just can develop this kind of inner stability. Things arise, we don't have to move.
Relax awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, it's arise.
So next one's not being selfish. This one, a lot of it was around not kind of attaching to a point of view. I think not being selfish is, for Master Hua, what we do before we lie. And of course, everyone can reflect a little bit on for yourself. What does this really mean? But when we thought about it, we thought, oh, oftentimes we lie because we're trying to protect a particular point of view, right? We attach to our point of view and then we lie to defend it. Like I was talking about, when I get in an argument, I start just thinking of ideas and arguments to defend my point of view. Maybe they're kind of truthful, but I'm kind of exaggerating things or pulling things here and there to kind of make myself right. Or instead of doing that, why not listen to others respectfully, learn from others? And we said here, why not have a spirit of service, as Jin-Wei said, for selfishness? Instead, have a heart of service. Pursuing personal advantage. This is the one that leads to intoxicants. So we thought, well, with the mind that is going for intoxicants is usually trying to take a shortcut or going for a distraction. We have an emotional, internal kind of anxiety. And what do? We take an intoxicant to dull that experience.
To run away.
Or we feel like somehow our experience is not enough. So we get some kind of external stimulant to make ourselves feel somehow more excited, more exuberant, right? So we want to get a shortcut from the actual real work of working on our minds and really developing wisdom. So here we say we resolve to stay mindful and focused. And finally, as I understand it, Master Hua added the sixth principle just to emphasize this, because so many disciples ended up doing this. And I don't think it was just during that early disciple time. It's, I think, still with us for sure now, is that we lie. And this lying happens on a multitude of levels. And we try to point out here that oftentimes we lie because we don't want to see our faults. Just the topic of this particular night. And so we cover over our faults. So we say here, we want to commit to being truthful and take our mistakes, our faults, as opportunities to learn, right? Wouldn't that be a much better attitude? Rather than trying to protect our ego and look good, and then our faults just get bigger and bigger as we cover them over and try to deny them. why not just say, you know what, I'm committed to truth. And if I make a mistake, I'll learn from it. It seems to make so much sense, but so many times we go the other way. So we say, we apologize and do our best to make amends when we harm others. So we make a mistake, or harm other people, which we do, then yeah, we committed to try our best to make amends as appropriate. And this final line, we essentially are requesting the kind of light of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the three jewels and the Dharma protecting spirits, so that we're not just doing this from our own strength, but requesting support. And I think if we read the sutras, we often see that the Buddhas come and aid the Bodhisattva on their spiritual journeys. So we just want to open our hearts to that, we're going to try to do these, we're going to try to maintain these 4 hearts and these 6 skylines. But in reality, is it coming purely from our own effort? I really doubt that. If we really had a much broader vision, we would see that there's so much that goes into our existence. It's not just that we're just creating our own lives. Like, for instance, Jin-Wei and myself as monks, every day, people come with offerings of food, and we have food to eat. That's coming from other people's strength that then fuels us for the day. There's so much that, in terms of causality, that we don't see. And so we can't really take credit for what actually happens a lot. I think we can just I know in the service-based language, they surrender to emergence. Just let go and just do our best. Yeah.
At the same time, keep this kind of grateful heart. Still acknowledge that Jin-Chuan says we are not self-made, right? It's so many people, so many persons in our lives helps to create who we are right now. And like now in the monastery, you can see every single item here behind came from good hearts of others, without any exception. Everything here is a gift.
Okay, so we're pretty much at time. And so what Jin-Wei and myself will be doing in the future, if we have a chance to speak, is to go over the Purifying Practices chapter. So tonight we really investigated, how do I transform my faults? And I wanted to show what are some of the activities coming up at the monastery. If you go to berkeleymonastery.org, you will see our 2021 Vesak, Shakyamuni Buddha's birthday ceremony. Is tomorrow, which is Sunday here in California, May 23rd, from 6:30 to 7:30 Pacific time. You can click this link here to figure out your time zone. And we'll be broadcasting on YouTube. For those on this talk right now, it's the same channel, or also on the Zoom, the BBM online link. You can click that and join our meeting via Zoom. The registration to be able to sign up is already kind of closed. So, but you can still attend. So please do that. And we also have a recitation sheet with what our ceremony for tomorrow will be. Starting with the incense praise, the Heart of Prajnaparamita Sutra. We do the Mahaprajna. Here, I want to mention this. Praise the Buddha to the tune of Amazing Grace. This is bringing Dharma to the West, right? Upon the earth, below the sky. So let's enjoy that tomorrow. 3 refuges. And then we do the praise for bathing the Buddha, which is a very beautiful tune. And then we do the bathing Buddha mantra, followed by the transference from bathing the Buddha. And when during the ceremony, we also read people's names for all those who've signed up from before. And we ask those who are joining that during the time we recite the mantra, you can actually just bow to the Buddha as you listen to the chanting. I think that will make it more interactive, because I know we're separated. If everyone's in the monastery, we would be able to circumambulate and walk around reciting together. But in this time, we have to do it online. And I also wanted to say that if you click to read more, you can see that there's the whole schedule here, and also Chinese. So that's one thing. The other thing we have is we have the 3-day Amitabha session starting also tomorrow. So tomorrow after the Bathing Buddha, which ends at 7:30, we'll do the 8 precepts transmission from 8:30 to 9:30, followed immediately by Buddha recitation for about 30 minutes. And if you have the time, you can then join us for our afternoon recitation, which will then be, we'll have one session from 12:30 to 1, and then 2 to 3:30 p.m. And then we'll continue for Monday and Tuesday as well, 8:30 to 10, 2 to 3:30. And you can set up a Pieway if you wish to join. You click here, and you can essentially have, if you join for part of the ceremony, you can put in 2 people that you would like to you could say dedicate merit to. We had some nice little reflection from one of these great spiritual teachers, Ajahn Mun, talking about the dedication of merit, how valuable it was for those in the ghost realms. But maybe we'll say that for a future lecture. For those who have been paying attention, the pandemic has still been pretty serious in India and the surrounding countries. And so we've decided to do a 3 steps, 1 bow on Fridays for India and the surrounding countries. And you can join us. This date here is May 21st, but this should be updated May 28th. So we've been doing on Fridays. So if you have the time and you wanted to connect with others around the globe with a one heart, wishing for others' well-being, this is a really good time to come. Other than that, you'll see there's many different activities happening in the monastery. There's DRBU, which is still, I think maybe, I don't know if they're still taking applications, but if you probably ask, they'll probably will send you information. And then we also have our Great Compassion Dedication of Merit, not this weekend, but the next weekend. Okay, so lots of activities you can see from the monastery side, but we're very grateful to be able to be immersed in the Dharma. That's really quite amazing how much Dharma we get to be part of. So how about we do the dedication of merit now? Okay. How would we do may we?
May we?
Okay, so Jin-Wei and myself have another dedication of merit chant that we found to be very meaningful. And also people can join in. And this is a kind of spirit of loving kindness. It's called May We. Written by Eve Decker. And we invite everyone to chant along once you get the tune. We'll do it 3 times. May we be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May we be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May we be healthy and strong and physically at ease. May we take care of ourselves and live with well-being. May we be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May we be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May we be healthy and strong and physically at ease. May we take care of ourselves and live with well-being. May we be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May we be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May we be healthy and strong and physically at ease. May we take care of ourselves and live with well-being. So wish everyone a good evening and hope you have the rest of the week full of well-being and peace. And how about we just finish with 3 bows to the Buddhas and then 3 bows to Master Hua.
Hopefully we can meet you tomorrow. We have whole day
Yeah.
activities, included the bathing Buddha ceremony. Very meaningful, once a year.
Okay, so 3 bows. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Okay, so wish everyone well. We're signing off.
Amitabha.
Amitabha.